Blood. Everybody has it. Everybody needs it to survive. Lose too much of it, and we die. We've always had a fascination with blood. It represents our life force and our vitality. Blood is everywhere in our cultures, from images of heroic blood spilt on the battlefield to the precious blood of virgins being used in potions and cures, even in religious ceremonies, such as the Christian Eucharist. If everybody has blood, then why is some people's blood treated differently to others? I'm just going to start the podcast by saying blood is a huge topic, so much so we could have even done a whole series on it. Today we're just going to be looking at two issues: menstruation and the restrictions on men who have sex with men donating blood in the UK. Also, I just want to mention, here at Spectrum we recognise that menstruation and blood donation can be a sensitive and triggering topic for people of all genders. And menstruation can be especially triggering for people with gender dysphoria. We won't be talking about the gender dysphoric experience of menstruation today, at the risk of repeating material from my earlier podcast, Feminism and Advertising. So if you're interested in that, you can check that podcast out. First of all, we're going to look at the myths and taboos surrounding menstruation. From veiled and mysterious sanitary wear advertisements to Instagram banning visual and spoken word artist Rui Kara's self-portrait, which showed a menstrual leak, people seem to have a problem with acknowledging and talking about menstrual blood. And people who make choices about their own menstruation, which aren't deemed normal by the rest of society, like Kiran Gandhi's decision to not wear sanitary wear while running a marathon, often face backlash and even aggression from the public. First of all, we'll be talking to St Andrews University's Plan UK Society about the negative impact taboos surrounding menstruation and menstruation myths have on the lives of young women around the world. Okay, so would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tatiana. I'm a third-year student at the University of St Andrews, and I'm a member of Plan UK, a charity that we've launched a few months ago in St Andrews, and specifically the branch called Because I'm a Girl project.
Okay. So can you describe what Plan UK is as a whole, as an organisation?
Plan UK is a charity organisation that focuses on raising the awareness and trying to fight for rights for girls and children overall in developing countries. We try to fight violence and early marriages in countries like Africa, India, and also to fight against female genital mutilation, and we fight for quality education for all the kids around the developing countries.
That's great. Now, in my research for this podcast, which is about the gendering of blood, I came across work that Plan UK has done to debunk myths surrounding menstruation and the treatment of those who menstruate in countries like Tanzania and places like India. Can you sort of talk me through some of the myths that exist?
Oh yeah, of course. There are several taboos and misconceptions of girls getting menstruation in developing countries. So as you said, in Tanzania, an owner of a menstrual cloth is actually considered to be cursed if you don't burn it or if you don't bury it somewhere. Or for example, in India, it is not allowed to be at the kitchen if you're on your period because they think that the food will be poisoned. And there are so many examples, as let's say in Bangladesh, they consider that menstrual cloth will attract evil spirits and you again will be cursed. And in some parts of Africa, it is considered that you might change your skin color or even be infertile afterwards and be dirty, or you can get cancer, which is really crazy. And that's the reason why girls might skip school at some point, and this will lead to the dropout rate from the schools, and the overall education rate will just go lower and lower, and it's some sort of a vicious circle.
So can you provide me with some of the statistics surrounding the dropout rates due to menstruation?
Yeah, of course. For example, 28% of girls in Uganda do not go to school when they have their period, which accounts for 20% of whole school year. And moreover, 18% leave school before even graduating, of which 46% do not go to school because they don't have sanitary towels or any hygiene pads or anything that would make them comfortable to go to school. And that's the reason why Plan UK tried to invest into building separate bathrooms in the schools and also educate teachers and students itself about menstruation and about what's happening to your body and that is completely normal. Also, Plan UK provides with different sanitary and hygiene packs, and they provide water in the school so actually girls can take care and not skip school because of menstruation.
So India in particular, through Plan UK, have quite an interesting scheme going on. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, of course. Plan UK, they invented the special vending machines for sanitary towels that are pretty discreet and at the same time quite accessible for the girls. So it's, of course, it's not really perfect in a way that it's still discreet, but I guess we just need to be really careful about the cultural norms but still providing some opportunities and some equal opportunities for the girls to take care of their health. So it's a really interesting project that Plan UK is doing right now in India by installing those vending machines in a really special and locations.
So aside from, obviously, even though there being equal opportunities for girls to go to school, obviously the myth surrounding menstruation means that those that complete schooling are usually male. What other effects do you think that these myths have on the girls as individuals in their own lives?
Well, I think the girls themselves will probably feel somewhat damaged, like the further life, they might be damaged as they would feel incomplete as a personalities, or that something is wrong with them, or they might be afraid that they will probably damage their family or their life or their environment, and that's the reason why they might be psychologically traumatized in some sort of way. And I guess that's the important thing for us as a charity, to raise the awareness and try to raise money and try to bring the same knowledge as we are having here in the UK, let's say, or like around European students, and make sure that everyone else has the same knowledge and same amount of information about the basic topics as your health.
This sounds a really important cause. What does Plan UK Society in St Andrews do, and how can people get involved?
Well, we've just recently launched, so our lots of positions are open right now, and we're always looking for volunteers and for anyone who can be involved and with any ideas and support.
Menstruation is also an expense that many people struggle to afford. In the UK, sanitary wear is viewed as a luxury and therefore taxed. And this week, MPs voted against scrapping the tax. Labour MP Stella Creasy says that this isn't by accident, but by the design of an unequal society in which the concerns of women are not treated as equally as the concerns of men, which might suggest why razors, which are used by men as well as women, aren't taxed. So next we're going to talk to Katrina, who's involved with Ruby Cup, who sell menstrual cups as a cheaper alternative to disposable sanitary wear, and give back to the community whilst doing so. Okay, so do you want to introduce yourself and the Ruby Cup?
Okay, so I'm Katrina and I work as part of SAVE, sort of a project for Enactus in St Andrews, and we're launching the Ruby Cup in St Andrews, which is basically, it's a menstrual cup and it's amazing, really. It's really comfy and easy to use, and I don't really know what else to say about it. It's great.
So for people who don't know, what is a menstrual cup?
So it's an alternative form of protection. So in comparison to your pads and your tampons, It's kind of a silicone cup that is just inserted when you're on your period, and it stops the leaking. It doesn't leak, it collects all the blood, and then you just kind of take it out, you pour it away. Very simple. Sounds kind of gross, but no grosser to anything else.
So what are the benefits for a Ruby cup compared to like traditional tampons and pads?
So the Ruby cup is slightly different to other forms of menstrual cups. So you've got sort of the Diva cup, the Moon cup, and the Ruby cup are like the main competitors, really. And the biggest selling point for me on the Ruby cup was that there's no risk of toxic shock syndrome, which is the most terrifying thing ever to think about. And there's a lot of benefits to using a menstrual cup. So it's cheaper. The Ruby cup costs £15 as a whole, and it lasts for 10 years, and you just sort of sterilise it after each use and it's fine. There's no risk associated with it. So it's cheap, it lasts for 10 years, it doesn't produce any waste. Like, that's it, it's pretty much all you need.
So, you know, if that wasn't incentive enough, buying the Ruby cup from Save doesn't just benefit the consumer, does it?
No, so the main the main part of Save is that we have a really important social mission to go alongside it, and this is something that's quite important to Enactus as a whole, as well as the product Ruby Cup in general. So if you're to buy from the Ruby Cup website, they do a kind of buy one, give one strategy, and they will give to girls in developing countries to help them stay in education and not face kind of the taboo stigma that goes alongside menstruation. But we have kind of tailored it to Scotland or Fife in general, and we are doing for every 2 cups that we sell, because we've got a discount, so it works slightly differently. For every 2 cups that we sell, we are giving homeless women in Fife forms of protection for during their period, and they can pick which protection they would want. We're not limiting them to just using the Ruby Cup, because that might not be what's best for them. So we're really keen to get this up and going. We're talking with homeless shelters, and we're doing needs assessments to see how best we can help them, how to figure it out.
So you mentioned taboos in, you know, other places in the world, but how have taboos surrounding menstruation affected the project here?
So it's difficult to get something like this up and running because when you think about it, it seems quite logical, but obviously periods are not the easiest thing to talk about or market unless you want to go down the, like, when you see tampons advertised on TV, it's like very much the same smiling women.
Yeah, women, gendered approach, yeah.
Very gendered, and they're all like, yeah, I can run a marathon. And it's like, of course you can. There's nothing stopping you doing that. And obviously the idea of a menstrual cup is, it's not mainstream. It's very kind of hidden away and not talked about. And people aren't willing to come up and discuss something quite as personal to them as their periods with you. So it's very hard to market to an audience that, it's quite a targeted audience. You have to have people who menstruate buying it, which means you can't do like a big marketing campaign, and you need it to be quite specialised in terms of making sure you're reaching the right people and the people who are interested. And you can even explain how logical, like in all logical terms, that it's cheaper, like it's safer, all this kind of thing, and people will still be, I just don't think it's for me, because they haven't tried it before. And it's very much trying to get over the hurdle and start the conversation of, like, you need to get people face to face who are open enough to discuss it with you. So it's difficult, but hopefully we'll get there.
So for people who are listening to this and are interested, how can they sort of find out more about the Ruby Cup and perhaps purchase one in St Andrews?
So we have quite a lot of forms of social media. We've got our Twitter page up and a Facebook page, and we've also got a website which has all of our links and information on. I think it's Project Save St Andrews. The link will be, we'll provide the link at the end of the podcast, and it has all the information about how you can reach us if you want to order online and not come and speak to us. If you've got all the information you could possibly want, we are selling them online and they'll be delivered straight to your door. Or every Monday we do drop-in sessions at the Union at 1:00, and you can come and buy from us then as well.
The second topic we're going to discuss is the restrictions on men who have sex with men donating blood in the UK. Before 2011, men who had ever had sex with another man were permanently excluded from giving blood. Now, men who have sex with men are required to be abstinent for a year before donating blood. The Give Blood website says that the reasons for this is that men who have sex with men as a group have been shown to be at higher statistical risk than the general population of acquiring HIV and other sexually acquired infections such as HBV in the UK, and the restrictions are in place in order to protect the blood pool from these infections. Some people view this as discriminatory and believe that the decision should be based on individual risk assessments rather than a blanket restriction. Next, I talked to Robbie Beveridge, founder of the All Blood is Red campaign, which campaigns against the restrictions on men who have sex with men giving blood. So, would you like to begin the interview by introducing yourself?
Okay, so I'm Robbie Beveridge, and I'm the founder of the All Blood is Red campaign.
What is All Blood is Red? What are your aims? What inspired you to start the campaign?
Well, on a personal level, I'd always wanted to donate blood. I think it's a fantastic and it's an important thing that allows people to save the lives of others just by sharing something that we kind of have an abundance of. And it was only when I tried to sign up to give blood that I realised that I wasn't allowed to because I was a sexually active gay man. And it's something that always stuck with me, and it felt like a real kind of injustice and like I was somehow worthy of suspicion and ostracism from this process, despite the fact that I practiced safe sex and I was a healthy young man. And I decided to start this campaign to basically raise awareness of this policy because a lot of people don't know about it. And so basically All Blood is Red is a campaign to end the ban on gay and bisexual men giving blood in the UK. And we believe that the current policy that means that gay and bisexual men have to abstain from sex for 12 months before donating is discriminatory, it's illogical, and given chronic shortages in new blood donors, it makes no sense. We advocate for a policy based on sexual behaviour and risk rather than a blanket discrimination on sexually active gay and bisexual men.
Do you think the current restrictions on men who have sex with men giving blood are successful in protecting the blood pool from HIV?
Well, yes, in a way that it prevents kind of any risk at all from gay and bisexual men from essentially banning them to give, 100% making sure that there can't be any disease. But it's important to note that diseases like HIV and AIDS and hepatitis B and C, they're not confined to the gay and bisexual male community, and therefore a kind of equal policy for everyone should be adopted, one that makes a case-by-case decision based on sexual behaviour rather than sexuality. The idea that a same-sex married couple can't give blood and a sexually promiscuous heterosexual man or women can with no questions asked is kind of nothing short of discriminatory, and we've come kind of leaps and bounds in how we're able to test and screen the blood that we do receive. So to have a kind of this blanket ban just based on sexuality, I personally think it's unacceptable.
So are there any other countries which allow currently sexually active gay or bi men to give blood? And if so, what's their approach to the situation?
Well, Well, there are a few, and certainly I really believe that the tide is turning against this policy. And in Spain and Italy, for example, gay and bisexual men are allowed to give blood. And a small number of countries like Argentina have now changed their laws so that donor acceptance is based on overall risk rather than sexual orientation. And these countries, particularly Spain and Italy, they use the system that we're advocating for, and that's an individual risk assessment for all would-be donors regardless of sexual orientation. And in Italy, the policy that's been in place since 2001, it screens everyone for factors based on risk and sexual behaviour. And in Spain and Italy, there's been no examples or kind of tests that show that HIV prevalence has gone up at all because of infected blood from gay and bisexual men. And studies have kind of backed up this point that there hasn't been this kind of inundation of new HIV and AIDS cases coming out in these countries.
How do you think these restrictions affect the gay, bi-male community or the wider population's view of the LGBTQ plus community? Do you think it has a negative effect on how this group is seen by the public?
I do. I think, certainly on a personal level, I think that we should be building towards having equal societies all across the road, and I think a policy like this, it has no place within an equal society. This ban kind of reinforces very erroneous and dated views on homosexuality and bisexuality, and it also reinforces this idea of heterosexism, that one form of love is somehow superior to another. And so if we're kind of saying that we're living in a tolerant society where two men can get married, two women can get married, this idea of equal marriage is completely turned on its head by this idea that we're saying that a gay married couple aren't allowed to have protected sex with one another and they're not allowed to give blood as well. So yeah, I think it has a kind of negative impact on views of the LGBTQ community, and it really, it reinforces very, very dated views on the kind of gay and bisexual male community as well.
I personally think the campaign is amazing and support it. How can other people find out more about All Blood is Red, and how can people get involved with the campaign?
Well, it's really great to hear that you really...
I personally think the campaign is amazing and support it. How can other people find out more about All Blood is Red, and how can people get involved with the campaign?
Well, it's really great to hear that you really like the campaign. I think it's a really exciting campaign, and I genuinely think that this policy can be overturned even before the end of the year. The only way it can change, however, is with the support and engagement of as many people as possible. And we've had so many people kind of getting in touch and doing kind of things on university campuses, kind of campaigns in their hometowns, and lots of different kind of novel ways. So we're encouraging people at first to kind of follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and we're encouraging as many people to get involved with their ideas and get in touch with us with their thoughts and that. So yeah, we're encouraging people to get in touch through social media. They can message us through there, or we've got kind of email addresses that people can contact us on as well. And yeah, it'd be really fantastic, and I'm very optimistic that this policy can change, and we hope as many people will kind of help us get there as possible.
As you probably heard there was a little bit of technical interference on that interview. However, I didn't want to cut it because what Robbie had to say was so valuable. What did have to be cut out, however, was me thanking Robbie for his time, so I'd like to use this little afterword too. So, thanks for the great interview. Now we're going to have a personal account of blood donation from fellow student Liam, who donated blood at the same time I did at a local drive. I was surprised at the difference in experiences we had. I had a really pleasant time giving blood. Well, as pleasant as giving blood can be. For Liam, however, it was quite different.
I am an American young man, and so I have a much different experience with the blood politics situation. But it seems when I came here that I was disappointed to see that they were rather similar. I was hoping for a more progressive understanding of sexuality and of the breadth of sexual experiences among certain populations, such as men who have sex with men. and that was not greeted here in the same way that I had hoped. In some ways, it was even more conservative. In the U.S., they've only recently transitioned into a 12-month celibacy requirement for men who have sex with men. Before, it was if you were a man who had sex with a man at any point since 1978, you were ineligible to give blood, which includes gay and bisexual men as well as a wide variety of other men who have sexual experiences with men at some point in their life. It's going back 40, 45 years. And we see a complicated part of it here in which it stated that within the last 12 months, which is an improvement from what it could have been in the past, but it stated it included specific sexual practices which are not necessarily deemed sexual threats for the transmission of HIV, including protected oral sex. It enumerated both anal and oral sex between men, and it specified as well that whether it's safe or unsafe. I don't think that almost any doctor, nurse, any health professional would say that protected oral sex is more dangerous and more susceptible to the transmission of HIV than for men who have sex with men than it would be for anybody. It has a low risk starting off. It's noted to be very low risk. Well, there is some remaining aspects such as cuts in your mouth that are significant. I mean, they have to be like almost gashes. And there's almost no threat with saliva. So it's a bizarre inclusion for them to list that. And especially noting that it's a government organization here in the U.S. It's run by typically the American Red Cross, and it's more of a private entity. And so they can kind of get away with more discriminatory policies, but for the government to discriminate is a bit of a different situation and adds a stronger dynamic, I think. And I was quite shocked to see that oral sex would be included. It did not ask any heterosexual people if they had oral sex. It did not ask any heterosexual people if they had vaginal penetrative sex, or even anal sex. I mean, straight people can have anal sex and they would face basically the same risk that men who have sex with men experience. And therefore, I think it's a bit of a ridiculous claim to say that men who have sex with men are inherently, while there are statistics that support that there are larger prevalences of HIV within those communities, that does not mean that straight people don't have HIV, that straight people aren't susceptible to it. And it also assumes that, one, most likely if you are a queer man, that you have HIV. You can be tested routinely, and that you would still not be worthy of giving your blood to somebody who needs it in this world. You could be taking care of your health proactively through opportunities like PrEP. I think that dynamic is an important one that's changing for the sexual health of men who have sex with men. They have greater chances to not have to face the fear of HIV within our communities. And it's sad to see that development, that very critical development within our sexual health, that it's not being reflected within the policies of the government or private entities that collect blood. So I think we need a more updated standpoint for our blood donations, because ultimately it's something that I do, and I take risks to do so, because I think that people need my blood more than I do. And someone out there would rather have my blood, regardless of who I interact with, as long as it's safe, it's healthy, and I think that's all that matters to them.
How did the experience in the UK, how did that make you feel, like what you had to go through compared to what I had to go through, because we donate blood at the same time?
Oh, true. I would say it was very uncomfortable for me. I felt chastised almost. I felt like I was receiving a lot of judgment for sexual decisions that they may not even know that I made. possibly said, "I'm not sure" to the question, and it provoked a worrisome response from the people, and we had honestly up to 5 to 10 minutes of discussion about it, and semantics and a complicated process when really she could have been using that time to help somebody else get through the process, be done, and get more people donating blood as soon as possible. I knew that I was HIV negative, and that should be all that matters in that situation.
Good. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Of course, it's an honor.
All right, so that's it for this podcast. And now I know that blood is such a huge topic, and I probably didn't cover as much as I could have. If any of you have a particular interest with gendering of blood that wasn't covered in the episode, feel free to message the Spectrum page, and we may end up doing a follow-up. So I'd like to wish you all a happy and safe Halloween, and if you're going out, may the only spirits you encounter be the ones from a bottle.